Hello and welcome. In these days, one nation after the other is announcing the delivery or the promise of delivery of main battle tanks. In this video, I'm going to explain to you why Western main battle tanks are so essential for Ukraine's survival. This video is being recorded on the 25th of January, and as of now, it seems that the following battle tank donations are confirmed. 14 Leopard 2A4 from Poland, 14 Leopard 2A6 from Germany, 8 Leopard 2A4 from Norway. Spain supposedly gives 53 Leopard 2A4, of which 20 are in good shape. The rest has to be refurbished massively. Poland is donating 4 Leopard 2A6. The Dutch are thinking about buying the 18 leased Leopard 2s to hand them over to Ukraine. Sweden is thinking about the delivery of Stridswagen 122, which is basically a modified Leopard 2A5 with some domestic technology and some domestic add-on armor. The French are thinking about the delivery of Leclerc, and the Americans are likely going to send 30 to 50 Abrams to the US, even though it might take months or even over a year until they arrive. The question is, why are the battle tanks so important in a strategic sense and not in a tactical? Which means, why are they so important for winning the war, not for winning the battle? The reason for that is the development of the front lines right now. While at the beginning of the war, there was a war of movement where you could see the massive initial Russian advances that were then surpassed after that there was some grinding along the front line, and then the Ukrainians were taking massive swaths of land. As of now, after the Russian partial mobilization, the front lines have more or less been static. While they are still moving, while Soledar has been captured and Bakhmut might fall within the next week or two, the likelihood of the speed of the Russian advance is in snail's pace, basically, as of now. I did a rough calculation. If the Russians are continuing to advance further west from Bakhmut with the same pace they have advanced towards Bakhmut, they will take 2 years to reach the Dnipro River. This means that while the battle might not be designed as an attritional battle, which means that neither side just wants to kill as many of the opposing side, but both sides still fight for territory, unlike, for instance, it was with Verdun in the First World War. It in effect comes close to become an attritional battle. Ukraine has less than a third of the population of Russia, so if we assume that both nations don't face a revolution, don't face an uprising that forces them to capitulate to end the war, and if we assume that both nations more or less are able to mobilize the same percentage of their personnel of their population into the armed forces, then the Ukrainians would have to take out, to kill more or less, to cause casualties in a ratio of 1 to 4, better 1 to 5 on the Russian side to prevail in this war. Which means for every fallen Ukrainian soldier, they would have to kill 5 Russian soldiers. This requires a massive superiority in firepower, either by volume or precision, be it with artillery or air force. Air Force, obviously, the Ukrainian Air Force is still in existence, but it is nowhere close to dominating the front line and plastering every Russian that is just raising his head above the ground. And while Ukraine has received long-range artillery from the West with precision shells, the total volume of both the artillery pieces as well as of the available ammunition, and among the available ammunition of precision-guided ammunition, is far too small to even come close to anything of an exchange rate like this. So the only chance for them other than that would be a superiority in equipment or in training. But while there might be some discussion that Ukraine might in part be better equipped than Russia right now, even though I think that shouldn't be left alone, this statement like this. The training in general on the Ukrainian side might be better as of now. There is not such a discrepancy that would allow any hope for an exchange rate of 1 to 5, not even close to it. This is not a fight of the US against the Taliban in 2001 or of the coalition in the Second Gulf War, in the first Iraq War, where a numerically inferior force basically wiped the floor with its opponent. We are nowhere close to this, so the only chance for Ukraine to prevail in this is to stop the grinding along the front lines and go back to a war of movement. As soon as they get into a war of movement, they have basically two chances. Either they might achieve throwing out the Russians out of their country and thus forcing either their capitulation from the political side, because politics in Russia accept that they have lost the war, or because of the loss in territory, they could cause dissent within Russia, as continuous reports of lost territory would indicate that Russia is losing the war, making sure that the Russians themselves, the parents of the mobilized personnel and the mobilized personnel itself, sees it as being fed into a losing war, dying in vain, etc., and thus revolting in this regard and stopping the Russian onslaught in this regard. Other than that, as soon as the movement is happening, they don't just have to roll back the Russians to the international border. Movement itself allows a very favorable exchange ratio. If the Ukrainians do it properly and are successful, they can run over the opponent. They can punch through the front line. For that, battle tanks are important, as they themselves can take a hit or two, and their firepower allows the own forces to penetrate through enemy defenses. Once they are on the move, they can overrun enemy positions, forcing the enemy to flee, and units on the move are obviously a far easier target and far easier to destroy than anyone in entrenchments. They can encircle Russian units once they are in a war of movement and thus force their capitulation or their destruction. They can surprise units in the back, cause tremendous casualties. So whatever we see, if Ukraine is supposed to win the war either by gaining territory or by gaining a favorable exchange ratio when it comes to casualties, there is no way avoiding the conclusion that Russia and Ukraine, that Ukraine in this war needs to go back into a war of movement, and for that main battle tanks are essential. This is basically the short explanation. While this one piece of equipment can be such a game changer, obviously it doesn't guarantee the success. The amount of tanks will be essential. The amount of opposition, the opponent always has a vote as well in a war. There are many things that don't guarantee Ukrainian success with the fact that Western main battle tanks are delivered, but Western main battle tanks give Ukraine hope again to come back to a war of movement that is essential for their survival because of the reasons stated like this. I hope this was interesting to you. If it was, this channel is only possible because of the support from viewers like you. Thank you very much to everyone already supporting the channel, and if you want to support the channel, you can do so by the means in the description. Other than that, if you enjoyed the content, please hit the like button, leave a comment. What do you think? Do you think tanks will turn the tide in this war, will allow Ukraine to win, or do you think it's another weapon system that might be needed more for Ukraine? Leave your comments. Not only can they be really enlightening, they also help with the algorithm. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, I want to invite you to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon so you don't miss future videos, and recommend the channel to your friends and acquaintances to help it grow. That's it from me for now. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back.